go, Carter. You should be the first one. Go, 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 go.
You can't get too close.
Now let his kids go. Where's daughter?
New York, New York.
Yes, sir.
Fresh out the can.
Damn.
Over 18 stretch.
Damn.
They gave me 7 and 5.
Pops, go, buddy. You should be the first one. Go, go. He can't get too close. Gotta let his kids go. Where's his daughter? New York. Yes, sir. Fresh out the can. Damn. Over 18 stretch. Damn. They gave me 7 and 5. Max speed when you get max speed. Okay. Max out of here. People don't play with me with that conversation. Ain't nobody can tell me nothing about that. That's the first thing I say. You heard? Okay. That's how you feel. About to end a deal for anybody. There ain't no Max talk in my conversation. Period. Maxby finally touched the streets again after almost 16 long years behind bars, battling case after case, setback after setback, and still refusing to let his name fade away. The wave is officially back outside, but not everybody is celebrating. Phil, how you feeling? I feel righteous. Damn. Feeling good. Feeling good. Feeling good. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. Love that. Love that. Good, because word is someone real familiar is already tight about it, and that someone is Jim Jones. Max coming home ain't just reopening an old chapter. Music, it's reopening old wounds, and the trolling aimed at Jim is already getting wild. It hasn't even been 3 full days since Max stepped out, and he's moving like he never missed a beat. You can't even scroll your phone without seeing him. 1 minute, he's in a jewelry spot checking out new ice. Next, music. Minute, he's at somebody's birthday turning up. Then he's posted in the club. Then he's popping up at a Jets game like he's been outside this whole time. It feels like a whole documentary crew, music, is following him around the city. This is not one of those quiet, touch home and chill situations. Max jumped right back into the spotlight like he never left. And he's loving every second of it. That's a A-lister. Okay, anybody that got a sack balls, look me up. I'm gonna get you music, right? And the crazy part is the people are loving it too. This is hands down one of the most hyped homecomings hip-hop has seen in years. And fans have been waiting over a decade to see the wave finally moving. Again. So, it makes perfect sense he's everywhere right now. Max didn't just come home. He came home making noise and grabbing headlines. Max even popped the big question to his girlfriend just one day after walking out. Wasting no time, showing he's starting a whole new chapter. But with all that shine comes the drama. Because a comeback this loud is guaranteed to wake up old problems. Suddenly, all the usual talk is back. Old beefs, snitching, whispers, jealousy, people choosing sides, the whole messy mix. But the one storyline catching the most heat right now is his long and ugly feud with Jim Jones. Jim spent years trying to disconnect himself from anything tied to Max B. Music, he said in interview after interview. You don't want to speak on Max, don't want to deal with Max. Nothing. Max B when he gets. Max, okay. Max get __ out of here. All right. Okay. In one sit-down, he even said, F Max B. Then later tried to clean it up by saying he could maybe forgive, but he'd never forget. That basically meant the door was locked tight. But now that Max is out and moving like he's never been gone, it was only a matter of time before Jim's name got dragged right back into the mix. And of all people who could reignite that whole situation, of course, it was 50 Cent, and nobody acted shocked. 50 and Jim been trading shots for years. So the second Max stepped out, it was the perfect alley-oop for 50 to start clowning again. He hopped on Instagram and did what he does best, stir the whole pot. He posted a meme from Belly with the character Rico eating a banana, tagging him as Jim Jones, basically hinting that Jimmy was snitching. 50 threw his classic spin on the caption, too, writing something like, Homie said Max home. It's Packton Harbor. Jimmy about to drop a dime on these dudes, LOL. And just to turn the heat up even more, he added a clip of Max be on FaceTime with DJ Who Kid. After that, it wasn't just 50. Bloggers, hip-hop pages, and fans all jumped in, turning the comment sections into straight chaos. For anybody who doesn't, no, the tension between Jim Jones and Max B was never some tiny rap disagreement. This was deep, personal, and messy on both sides. Back in the mid-2000s, Jim and Music Max were moving like brothers for real, locking into the studio, chilling together, and sliding through Harlem side by side. But even before all the music fame and all the headlines, Max had already lived a wild life. He had just come home in 2005 after serving 8 years on a robbery case. And Music, when he stepped out, the world finally met Max Begavy, a name he built by blending Biggie Smalls' Macavy, Music, and __. When Max touched down, Harlem was already in a crazy era. The diplomats were running the whole city. Cameron, Joel Santana, and Jim Jones had the streets locked with hit after hit, dropping anthems that shaped a whole generation. Through Cameron, Max linked up with Jim, and the energy between them was music instant. Jim signed Max to his Bird Gang label and teamed Music him up with the legendary Harlem producer Dame Grease. And from that point, everything started moving fast. By 2006, Max had already dropped his first mixtape. Million All Baby hit the streets and took Music over instantly. Max's raspy, melodic delivery, his offbeat swagger, and that wild, wavy style made him sound like nobody else out. At the same time, Bird Gang had another rising problem solver, Stack Bundles. And with both Max and Stack in his corner, Jim Jones had the perfect duo. These were supposed to be the future of Harlem. Max was the hidden force behind the hooks and melodies that made Jim's tracks explode, and joints like Baby Girl turned into straight neighborhood anthems. Soon the chatter started. People whispering that Max was the real creative engine behind Jim's new sound. And that's exactly where the tension, music, started creeping in. And when this woman, Gina Marie Conway, who'd been with Cloden, told her boyfriend, Charlie Wingate, aka Max V, a rapper, about the men's money. As Max's music buzz grew, so did his street instincts. And those instincts ended up pulling him into a situation that flipped Music his whole life upside down. Around that time, Max was dealing with his ex-girlfriend, Gina Conway, who told him about a flashy dude she knew, Alan J. Plowin, a man living wild, running mortgage and mail hustles, cruising luxury cars, and throwing cash around like it was nothing. Gina claimed Max couldn't let the opportunity slide, so he started thinking they could hit a quick music lick. The plan sounded simple. Pull up to Plowin's hotel room, grab whatever money was inside, and dip out clean. Gina said Max was the one who pushed the whole move, promising her a better life if she played along. But when they finally tried to make it happen, Music, absolutely nothing about that night went the way they expected. Gina and Max's stepbrother, Kelvin Sims Leardam, were the ones who actually went out to make the move happen, but the whole thing fell apart before it even started in the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in Music Room 227. They were supposed to slide in while Plowdown was out partying, but they got lost, missed Music exits, and spent hours just driving in circles. By the time they finally reached the Hotel Inn, Fort Lee, Plowdown was already back in his room, knocked out next to another woman. Then things took a way darker turn. Another man, David Taylor, walked in out of nowhere. Music, he wasn't supposed to be part of anything. Sims panicked, pulled out a gun, and shot Taylor in the face, execution style. Just like that, what was supposed to be a quick robbery turned into a full-blown murder case. From that moment, everything collapsed, Music fast. Gina got picked up first, and when the pressure hit, she folded immediately. She handed over a 169-page statement to police, spilling everything she knew and pointing straight at Music Max, claiming he was the one who set the plan up. According to her, he was the mastermind, the one who convinced her to help, promising her a better life if the move worked. She, Music, said once things went bad, she told investigators everything just to save Music herself. And once the feds had her statement locked in, they came for Max heavy. He got arrested and hit with serious charges, including felony murder, even though he wasn't physically at the hotel that night. Max's bail got slapped at a massive $2 million. And just like that, Harlem's rising wave star was Music, staring straight at the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. While Max sat in that cold cell, time froze for him. But outside, everything kept moving fast. And the wildest part, Jim Jones, the same man Max once called Music, his brother, was suddenly everywhere. Jim had just dropped We Fly High, better known as Ballon, and the track exploded overnight. Music, it turned into a global anthem and became the biggest record of Jim's whole career, officially turning him into a solo superstar. But behind those prison walls, Max was hearing a completely different story. He claimed he was the one who actually wrote We Fly High. According to him, he ghost wrote that joint and several of Jim's biggest records. The hooks, the melodies, even some of the ad-libs came from his creative mind. So, while Jim was on TV doing interviews, popping bottles, and cashing major checks, Max was sitting in a cell watching somebody else blow up off a sound he said he helped build. After nearly 10 long months of waiting, Max finally caught a break. The judge reduced his bail, Music, to $90,000, meaning freedom was almost within reach. Music, but he needed help to touch the streets again. And that's where everything got dirty. Jim stepped in, but not out of love, loyalty, or brotherhood. Word around Harlem was that Jim only agreed to help with Max's bail if Max signed over his publishing rights and agreed to drop 6 full albums under Bird Gang songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made the hooks. I made the melodies. I made the __ dog. I'm the man. What looked like a lifeline was really a trap. But Max was desperate, locked down, and out of options. So, he signed the papers. In that moment, Jim walked away with full control of Max's publishing. And Max walked out with temporary freedom. Music, but his whole future now sat in the hands of the man he once trusted the most. When Maxby stepped out of jail in July 2007, he wasn't the same dude anymore. Prison had hardened him. The smile was still there. But behind it was a colder, sharper version of himself, carrying heavy resentment. He came home broke, betrayed, music, and locked into a deal that stripped away everything he had built. But as his buzz started growing again, Max realized something. If Jim wasn't going to treat him right, he was done keeping quiet. He was ready for straight-up war. And when Max said he was going to war, he meant music it. He wasn't fighting just for credit. He was fighting for respect, for ownership, for his whole identity. He walked away from Bird Gang and started plotting his next move. If Jim was going to make money off his name, Max was determined to let the whole world know the real story. Nothing was off limits anymore. That's exactly when French Montana stepped into the picture. Back then, French wasn't the superstar we know today. Music, he was a Bronx Street figure known for his Cocaine City DVD series, a raw, unfiltered look into real Bronx life. French already had his own issues with Jim after a shooting situation. Music created bad blood and rumors. So when Max and French connected, it wasn't just about dropping music. It was about lining up for revenge. Max and French teamed up and built Coke Wave. Music, and it quickly became way more than a crew. It was a whole movement. They were the underdogs, aiming straight at the industry from the underground, and they weren't scared of anybody. Max knew he didn't have label backing, but he had something way stronger. The streets, music, rocked with him, so he kept feeding the people nonstop, dropping mixtape after mixtape, giving the music away for free, music making sure nobody could silence his voice. But Max didn't stop at music. He turned his whole situation with Jim Jones into Foolin' Entertainment. Every interview, every freestyle, every appearance, Max was firing shots with no hesitation. The first big punch landed with his mixtape, Music Public Domain 3. The cover alone shook the city. Max standing in a graveyard next to tombstones labeled Millie, Jim Jones, and Music Vanilla Jewel Santana, basically calling them fake like the group Milli Vanilli. Then the lyrics hit. Max rapped, "I know them dudes need me. I was giving them the loop, but them dudes done blew it," letting everybody know he believed he. Music built that sound, and without him, they were lost. The record made serious noise across Harlem. Jim had the fame, but Max had the streets behind him heavy, and Max still wasn't done. He pushed even deeper and started going after reputations. One of the wildest moments of the entire feud came when Max dropped She Touched It in Miami. This wasn't some light disc. It was music. Straight disrespect wrapped in a song. On the track, Max claimed that Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampin, had been intimate with him, and that rumor sent shock waves everywhere. Max even rapped, Music sucked it in Miami, while Big Ellie hit it from the back of her fanny. And he said it like it was nothing, laughing it off and calling Jim emotional, saying Jim just couldn't handle the truth. Jim Jones, on the other hand, was blindsided. He didn't see any of this coming. When Max started firing public shots, Jim tried to stay cool, brushing it off and acting like Max wasn't a factor at all. To get my music room so I could ram it up his ass. Pause and ram the boom. I hit him so he can get all this my car, right? My window was down. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face. He jumped into interviews claiming Max was just a bitter, washed-up rapper who never made it. Just another guy who couldn't survive the industry. Jim even denied Max had anything to do with We Fly High, insisting music, he wrote his own biggest hit. But the streets weren't buying that story at all. People had already heard the old reference tracks floating around. Music and Max's voice was all over them. Little by little, the conversation shifted. Fans started wondering how much of Jim's success, even back in the Diapet era, came from his own talent and how much came from the people around him. Meanwhile, Max wasn't slowing down one bit. He moved like someone ready for pressure from anybody. He even started talking publicly about how the beef wasn't just music. It was real-life energy. Max claimed there was a moment when Jim tried to ambush him in a parking lot, blocking his car with a Bentley. According to Max, he spotted it coming, hit the gas, rammed Jim's car out of the way, and still managed to land a few punches before peeling off. French Montana and the people closest to Max backed his music story, and before long, the whole situation turned into straight legend. The beef wasn't just rap anymore. It had turned into a full-blown street saga. Then came November 2008. Music, the moment everything jumped to a whole new level. Max and French decided they weren't just talking. They were pulling up in person. They rolled deep into Manhattan and walked straight into the building where Jim was recording, ready to prove that the city wasn't sweet music for Jones anymore. Max later claimed that when Jim realized what was happening, he called the police. Whether that music was true or not, just the accusation alone bruised Jim's street reputation. In that music world, being labeled as someone who called the cops was one of the worst things you could be connected to. And the conversation around Jim shifted quick. Not long after that, their crews ran into each other again at a club in Brooklyn, and the whole spot turned into pure chaos. Chairs flying, bottles breaking, music, cops, and canines rushing in. The whole scene was wild. And once the dust finally settled, Max had done way more than just beef with Jim Jones. He flipped the entire narrative on him. Jim became a punchline, music, someone people started laughing at. While Max turned into a cult figure, a street music legend who didn't need a label or industry backing to make noise. But while Max kept dropping music and feeding his fan base, the law was closing in. And eventually it all caught up to him. Where at? I believe they didn't know he was out this early. Max's old case from that chaotic hotel, music robbery, had been crawling through the courts for years. And when the final verdict dropped, it crushed everything. Max was sentenced to 75 years in prison in the hip-hop world. Froze, haven't you been implying that Max cooperated? Music, no, we got that paperwork. Fans couldn't believe it. It felt like the wave got wiped out before it even reached the shore. While people mourned, Jim Jones looked like he was celebrating in silence. From Jim's point music of view, it felt like he had just pulled off the ultimate business win. Max was locked away, his voice was gone, and Jim still controlled the publishing to his music. He thought the war was finally over. But in May 2010, everything flipped right back around. Got the paperwork where he voluntarily met with law enforcement, and then he led music them to the location of the female, told him what strip club she worked at, and now that the conversation came up on how he went from 80 to 20 years. A judge ruled that Jim Jones had zero control over Max B's music anymore. The court found Max had met all the terms in both his 2005 and 2007 contracts, which meant he was officially free from Jim's grip. Music. Then came the real miracle. Max's massive 75-year sentence got cut down to 20 and later to just 12. Bit by bit, the daylight started creeping back in. And after all those years, the man who literally built a whole sound from a jail cell finally made it home. And even with his release, music, the internet couldn't help themselves. Controversy popped right back up. The moment news leaked that Max was close to touching the streets again, a familiar echo followed. Snitching rumors. These kinds of allegations always show up anytime a rapper beats a heavy sentence, and Max was no exception. And this time, the one pushing the storyline was none other than Wack 100. Wack 100 jumped out claiming he had paperwork proving Max cooperated with law enforcement while locked up. In a Vlad TV interview, he said he had documents showing Max met with authorities and supposedly gave information that helped reduce his original 80-year sentence. Wack even claimed Max shared details about a woman tied to the case, where she worked and all that, and said this played a role in his sentence getting cut. He also claimed people close to Max confirmed it, and even hinted at some video evidence that could hurt Max if it ever popped up. But here's the real issue. Nobody outside of Wack 100 has ever seen this so-called paperwork. Even Wack Music admitted he never met Max, never spoke to Max, never had any dealings with him at Music All. So, most people looked at the whole situation for what it was, another attempt to grab attention off somebody else's name. Fans came to Max's defense, Music, immediately, calling Wack's claims straight clout-chasing nonsense. And honestly, most people didn't care about the rumors. They were just happy to see Max home, smiling, and finally living life again. Now that Max B is officially back, the big question everybody's asking is whether he'll jump back into the music game and if the new generation will embrace him the way the old one did. The industry has changed a lot since he first touched down, but the streets don't forget their legends. For now, Max looks like he's just enjoying his freedom, soaking up the love, music, reconnecting with his people, and feeling the energy that's been waiting on him all these years. And if you rocked with this story, make sure you subscribe to Drip Z, share this video, drop a comment, hit that like button, and help the algorithm push this video out. Hype this video.